All right. First rule of this channel, we not talk about this channel. Second rule of this channel, this is not legal advice. So this is going to be the 2024 offseason fantasy football preview for the New Orleans Saints. And remember the two things that we're looking for from a fantasy perspective. Opportunity is king. The queen is efficiency. And if those right opportunities aren't going to the right guys, it doesn't really matter from a fantasy perspective. If things are just okay, if the offense is just okay, I want the great players so they can be opportunity funnels. If those opportunities aren't going to just that one great player and they're being spread about and I can't predict it, then like, why does it matter? They're not going to win me weeks. And if they can't win me weeks, they're not going to win me leagues. They're just going to clog up my roster or clog up my lineup. I'm not going to be able to cut them because they have too much they have too much value to be kicked away to free agency. And at that point, like, I'm just trying to figure out what to do with them. And that's what we're looking at with the Saints, especially at some of the prices that some of the guys are going at. So looking at the Saints last year, and I'm expecting like this is relatively going to stay consistent with them. 11th in passing yards, 21st in rushing yards, 9th in points for, 8th in points against. And when you're the 9th best offense and the 8th best defense, and there's only 7 slots open for the playoffs in your conference, you don't make playoffs. And that's like the long and short of it overall when it comes down to them. They also went out and they their first round draft pick was Talisi Fuaga from Oregon State, offensive tackle guard. I do like that pick. Probably is going to benefit the offense a little bit, but maybe not enough at ADPs to make a difference. Last year, the Saints had 606 passing attempts, and they were 7 yards per pass attempt, so they weren't very efficient. Remember, the 49ers had the lowest pass attempts, but they had the highest efficiency at 9.3. So again, it doesn't really matter at that point if they have a lot of volume. It's not the good volume. It's the opposite of good volume. And in this case, Derek Carr, he is going to be my quarterback 30. He's going quarterback 26 on Fantasy Pros, 168 overall. Overall, an underdog. And remember, that's a best ball league. That's a wide receiver meta. He's going quarterback 27 with an ADP of 199. Over here on ESPN, he is going all the way down here, 268, quarterback 29. So outside of 2 quarterback leagues, I don't know how he gets you there. He's just not going to probably be efficient enough to move the needle to that next level of guys, and he's not going to have any rushing upside. The best thing about Derek Carr is theoretically with like your Chris Olaves and your Juwan Johnsons, he is good enough to potentially have those guys return on investment. The other guy is going to be second-year guy Jake Haener out of Fresno State. Some stuff to like about him last year, he did a 6-game suspension for like PEDs, believe that or not. And then they drafted Spencer Rattler in the 5th round this year. Like, you're either going to like Spencer Rattler or you're going to hate Spencer Rattler. Either way, they're not going to win leagues. They have the meme lord himself, Nathan Peterman, on their roster too, that I saw like 5 interceptions in week 11 of 2017 when he was with the Bills. And then we'll talk about Taysom Hill when we get to the tight end room in this case overall. All right, moving on to the running back room. Alvin Kamara, I did split the backfield with the Saints, at least in terms of Kamara. I moved him up to running back 20. I'm still really tempted to keep him in the running back 30 range. Low efficiency. He's going to turn 29 in July. And guys that generally are inefficient at this age do not magically become more efficient again. And then it just becomes an issue of price. And again, I have him as my running back 20, pulling him up. He's going running back 17 on Fantasy Pros, 51 overall. Over on Underdog, he's going running back 17 with an ADP of 69.7. On ESPN, he's going running back 11, 23 over. That's ridiculous. And in this case, like when we look at Alvin Kamara last year and the year before that, and the year before that, like his efficiency has been dropping since 2020. 3.74 in 2021, 4.02 in 2022, 3.86 in 2023. He's still going to be a opportunity funnel when it comes to targets in the passing game. I don't see that changing. Probably going to be about 100 targets this year. They're going to end up being lower efficiency targets, things I don't like. The other thing to remember with him is he had 8 red zone targets in the 14 games or 13 games that he played last year. He only cashed one of those in for touchdowns. So again, like, it doesn't matter how many red zone opportunities he's getting. If they're not turning into touchdowns, it doesn't matter. And I can't even shop his price because he's basically already going at the ceiling because he's probably going to have some of his opportunities cut into by second-year back Kendre Miller, who should be healthy this year. They also have Jamal Williams in this case coming back. And between Alvin Kamara and Jamal Williams, and I have their contracts pulled up, they both can get cut or traded after June 1st. And then I bet that's what the Saints are doing right now. They're trying to find somebody else to take one or both these guys off the roster. They also have James Robinson, and he's always going to be near and dear to my heart after finishing running back 7 in 2020 and getting me a chip. He's a couple years removed from that Achilles tear. And remember, with Deonta Foreman, it did take him a couple years to come back. There is a redundancy between James Robinson and Jamal Williams being better football players than athletes. They both can pass block, be that trusted guy. So if James Robinson's healthy, they're probably going to save the money on the Jamal Williams contract and cut Jamal Williams. At that point, the guy that actually is going to matter is going to be Kamara. If Kamara is the guy in the backfield, you're probably not going to have a way to win leagues because Kendrick Miller is going to eat into him, and it's going to be low efficiency in the first place when Kamara does get the opportunities, because this offense is probably not going to be projected to be one of the good offenses. They're going to be in that like okay type of range at best. So the other thing is, like, if Jamal Williams does stay on the roster, now it becomes a running back by committee, and there's like going to be very little value for Alvin Kamara to do anything other than be that high volume target guy as a running back 2 or like replacement level like RB3. Like it becomes really ugly. So over here on ESPN in your redraft leagues where he's going like something around the range of like running back 11, which is ridiculous to me. On Fantasy Pros, again, he's going like 51 overall, which is where I would feel a little bit better taking him at. But this would also be the range like I don't understand why he's going, why he would be going in this range, other than like he would have to drop about 10 more picks for someone to actually want to pull the trigger on him, because you're looking at like your Anthony Richardsons, your Malik Neighbors, your Mark Andrews, your Trey McBride's going in the same range as him. So over on your ESPN leagues, where he's going at like 23 overall, I'd be taking Joe Mixon attached to that Texans offense, Rachaad White with the same passing opportunity that he's going to get at the under the age apex, and this is the primary age apex 26. Alvin Kamara is over the second one at 28 already. So there's already going to be other guys in this area that I would be like more interested in taking than Alvin Kamara at running back 11. And that's if he's steamed all the way up to like running back 11, 23 overall. He probably should be going closer to this 51 range. I would probably be putting him closer to like 70 overall in this range, where I would honestly want to be taking him to maybe have the ability for just that volume-based play as an RB2. Other guys I'd be much more interested. Moving on to the wide receiver room, I have Chris Olave as a wide receiver 13. He's going wide receiver 12 on Fantasy Pros, 20 overall. Over on Underdog, he is going as wide receiver 11 with an ADP of 17.5. And then on ESPN, he's all the way up here at wide receiver 10, 18 overall. Chris Olave is going to have this theoretical upside to have this legendary or elite type season if all the air yards hit in any particular season. And it could happen at any given time. And then in the year after that, he's going to be like way overvalued because he's always going to have those low probability throws. And if those low probability throws start hitting in a season all at the same time, he's going to have this Tyreek Hill type of season. That's within his range of outcomes. I don't want to be paying for that if he's going at like wide receiver 10, if he's going at wide receiver 13, if he's going at wide receiver 12. That theoretical upside is baked into his price. But you also got to remember that all those air yards can go the opposite way, and you can have this really ugly season where he struggles to like hit 1,000 yards receiving because of those low probability targets. The other problem with Chris Olave is going to be that he's just not a red zone guy. I have this pulled up with Chris Olave. This is going to be the advanced stats when it comes to wide receivers. He's 24 overall when it comes to advanced stats. He did 11 red zone targets. Remember, Romeo Doubs was wide receiver 10 when it came to red zone targets. Chris Olave is wide receiver 36 when it comes to red zone targets. Just not going to be what his job is in the offense. The biggest issue with Kamara is going to take away the opportunities from Chris Olave and Jawan Johnson to have them be fantasy relevant, more so than guys like Chris Olave having the value. So if I'm going after Chris Olave and guys like Chris Olave, and we're going to talk about DK Metcalf tomorrow, more than likely, the biggest things about them is they're going to have that theoretical upside, and I'm going to have to pay for it. So like in this ESPN league where he's going at like 18 overall, wide receiver 10, that's plus or minus, where he should be going. I'm just going to pivot to a guy that has a better opportunity to win me a league at that price than Chris Olave does to finish at like wide receiver 15 and be worse than a punt. He's just going to like take up my roster. So they finished last year at wide receiver 19. I don't want to take on that possibility when I have to potentially hope that I get this magical year where all those low probability throws hit. The other thing is, moving on in the wide receiver room, there is a theoretical number 2 in this offense, whether that's a wide receiver 2 or a tight end 1. One of the guys that we will be looking at is Rashid Shaheed. He was a low efficiency type of player or a high efficiency player on low opportunities last year. I don't believe that he's going to end up being the number 2 in this offense because of that. He doesn't slot in to be an X receiver. So in those theoretical 2 wide receiver sets, like I don't think he's going to be on the field. We'll talk about some of the other guys here in a second. So he's still in real life going to be the wide receiver 3 in that regard in the offense. He's not going to get red zone opportunities either. So he's going to have to be this like high efficiency, low opportunity player that he was last year. Going to have more value because of the theoretical possibility of that wide receiver 2, option being open in this offense, and throwing late darts on this guy. These guys are not a bad idea, because that would be the story that we have to tell about how guys are valuable. So Rashid Shaheed, he is my wide receiver 61. He's going wide receiver 58 on Fantasy Pros, 140. On Underdog, he is going as wide receiver 55 with an ADP of 110.9. So again, those best ball leagues, they are expecting some spike weeks out of Rashid Shaheed. And then on ESPN, he's going all the way down here at wide receiver 140. Or wide receiver 59, 140 overall. So again, I think that's where he should be going. Just on the fringe of draftability, chasing this wide receiver 2 or this number 2 option in this 600 pass attempt offense. Like that's not a bad idea to be going about this. There's probably guys that I would like better at this range. I think he's capped out as a wide receiver 2. Theoretically, there's other guys I think I could be going for that have the ability to be a wide receiver 1. And we're looking at like Jolyn Polk or Javon Baker with the New England Patriots over the number 2 in the Saints offense overall. A couple other guys or a few other guys talk about A.T. Perry, 5th round draft pick last year, did get a little bit of run as that, number 2 in the offense. He's probably going to be the odds-on favorite to be the guy this year. They also brought in Cedric Wilson, who ran that X position with the Dolphins. Those guys will be battling it out. 5th round draft pick Bub Means, like this would be the guy that I would probably be betting has the best possibility to maybe beat out these 2 guys. I did like him. I thought he was going to go a little bit higher in the draft. Going to be a little bit limited. But again, if you're chasing that in deeper leagues, like this number 2 attached to this low efficiency offense, like, outside of maybe having that ability to take over as the number 1 because of the limitations of Chris Olave. And then Kyle Sheets, he's a D2 guy, D2 All-American, 4.52 guy, theoretically could be that X in this offense. All right, finally, to finish all this off, you're looking at Jawan Johnson, the tight end. He is my tight end 15 overall. He's going tight end 19 on Fantasy Pros, 156 on Underdog. He's going tight end 20, 172 overall. And then on ESPN, he's going all the way down here at 186, tight end 19, just below Taysom Hill. Jawan Johnson probably should be tight end 12. He should be the last draftable tight end in 12 team leagues. Everybody's probably sick and tired of chasing Jawan Johnson at this point. He's a converted wide receiver. I have chased him before. I drafted him last year, late in my draft. He did burn me. Overall, like, yeah, he should be drafted in all leagues because of the theoretical possibility that you're getting a number 2 attached to any offense, and he's a tight end. That's the long and short of it. The number 1 in this offense is theoretically Chris Olave. He doesn't get red zone targets. We all know the actual number 1 in the offense, the red zone opportunity guy, is going to be Alvin Kamara. But outside of the possibility that Jawan Johnson could take over as the red zone target because of the lack of efficiency in Alvin Kamara, that's what I'd be looking at. No one's going to be surprised if Jawan Johnson busts again. No one should also be surprised if Jawan Johnson is a top 5 tight end this year. That's the long and short of it. Because of the theoretical number 2 option in this offense being on the table, even a guy like Foster Moreau that had some fantasy value a couple years back when Darren Waller was down for the Raiders, if he takes over as the number 1 in this offense or the number 1 tight end in this offense, you're also looking at like Darren Holker, 4.68 guy from Colorado State, the rookie undrafted. Maybe there's a road again. Like if we're throwing darts at a number 2 in an offense that's a tight end, anybody's going to have value when it comes to that. And then finally, Taysom Hill, if you're wondering about this, like not draftable, probably should be taking the flyer on guys that have the opportunity to be the number 1 or number 2 in their offense. Could still theoretically be a top 10 tight end at the end of the season when all those other guys bust out, but I would not be spending draft capital on a gimmick gadget guy to start the season. So anyway, to finish all this off, you're looking at Jawan Johnson is undervalued at the where he's going in the draft. Buyer beware on that one because we've been burned before. Kendrick Miller is going to be that lottery ticket to take over the backfield. Expecting Kamara and or Jamal Williams are going to get cut or traded. Alvin Kamara definitely overpriced. Almost any place that he goes is going to be overpriced because he's going to have competition and he's over the age apex and he's already declining in efficiency. All you're buying is essentially 100 targets. Chris Olave is relatively appropriately valued. It's just going to be, I don't know how he returns, unless something changes that we can't predict at this point overall. And I would just generally stay away from these guys at these prices because there are probably other guys that have easier stories to win me leagues. And I think that's about all I got for the Saints. Hopefully I will be back tomorrow.